Maya Castellanos stood on the execution platform, 17 million kilometers above the burnt shell of what used to be called Earth, and couldn't help but think the Zenary had terrible taste in interior design. Chrome and obsidian everywhere, like someone had asked a 12-year-old to design intimidating space empire and given them unlimited budget. The molecular disintegration beam hummed above her head, all sleek curves and ominous purple glow. Very dramatic. Very unnecessary. Any last words, human? Commander Vextara's voice carried that particular tone aliens got when they thought they were being magnanimous. Her forearms gestured elegantly, cybernetic implants glowing beneath translucent blue skin. The universal translator made her sound like a disappointed professor addressing a particularly dim student. Maya looked out at the viewing galleries packed with Zenary nobility, their gossamer wings fluttering with excitement. Behind the reinforced transparisteel, she could see the feeds going live across the galaxy. 37 billion sentient beings watching humanity's reckoning in real time. The resistance hideouts on Mars would be silent now. The refugee ships fleeing toward Proxima Centauri would have stopped their engines to watch. Even the stubborn holdouts in the asteroid belt would be tuned in. Perfect. Yeah, actually, Maya rolled her shoulders, testing the quantum restraints one last time. Still perfectly calibrated to her molecular signature. Still completely useless against what she actually was. I've got a few things to say. Vextara's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among her species. By all means, your species seems fond of dramatic speeches before extinction. Maya grinned, the expression lighting up her angular face. Her grandmother used to say she had her father's smile and her mother's stubborn streak, a combination that had gotten her into trouble since childhood. Today, it might just save a species. 3 days ago, your people caught me infiltrating Data Hub Omega-7. Remember that? I was supposedly trying to steal shipping manifests or whatever your intelligence division decided to pin on me. She paused, letting the translator work. What I actually did was touch every single quantum processor in that facility. Every server bank, every data relay, every piece of tech that makes your pretty empire function. The galleries grew quiet. Vextara's expression shifted slightly, uncertainty creeping into her posture. See, here's what you never understood about humans, Maya continued, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. We're not just stubborn or emotional or irrationally brave. We're incredibly, magnificently, destructively spiteful. And when you back us into a corner, we don't just fight back. We get creative. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. On the command deck, she could see Admiral Keth Moore leaning forward, his 6 eyes focused intently on her. He was the smart one, Maya remembered from her briefings. The one who'd argued against public executions, who understood that humans didn't break the way other species did. You want to know what quantum consciousness really means? Maya's smile widened. It means that when you kill this body, you're not just murdering Maya Castellanos, quantum engineer, and General Payne in your collective asses. You're activating a weapon system that's been integrated into every piece of technology I've touched over the past 3 days. Vextara took a step back. Impossible. Our security protocols. Your security protocols were designed to stop conventional infiltration, data theft, sabotage. They weren't designed to stop someone who was never really here in the first place. Maya laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the vast chamber. This body? It's a quantum clone. A perfect copy down to every last memory and personality quirk, but quantum entangled with a real Maya Castellanos, who is currently sitting in a very comfortable chair about 40 light years away. The silence in the execution chamber was now complete. Even the low hum of life support systems seemed muted. When you kill me, Maya said conversationally, the quantum entanglement collapses. And when it collapses, it sends a very specific signal through every quantum processor I've touched. Every piece of Zenary technology that's been exposed to my quantum signature, which, if my calculations are correct, should cascade through your entire network in about. She tilted her head, as if listening to something only she could hear. 27 minutes. Keth Moore was already moving, his massive form striding toward the communication console. Too late, of course. They'd have to verify her claims, run diagnostics, trace the quantum signatures, all of which would take precious time they didn't have. "You're bluffing," Vextaros said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Am I? Your people have been studying human psychology for decades, trying to figure out why we keep fighting when any rational species would surrender. Here's your answer. We don't fight to win. We fight to make sure that if we go down, we take everyone else with us. It's not rational. It's not efficient. It's absolutely, utterly human." Maya closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the quantum restraints humming against her skin. In 47 light years, the real Maya would be feeling this too, sharing every sensation through their quantum link. The fear, the determination, the bitter satisfaction of a plan years in the making finally coming to fruition. "The thing about quantum consciousness," she said, opening her eyes to meet Vextaros' gaze directly, "is that death becomes negotiable. This body dies, but the pattern, the information, the essential me-ness gets preserved in quantum superposition. And that pattern knows exactly how to turn your own technology against you." She could see the exact moment when Vextara understood. The alien's eyes widened, her breathing apparatus fluttering with sudden panic. Behind her, alert signals were already beginning to flash on various consoles as the first anomalies started appearing in the network diagnostics. "Stop the execution!" Keth Moore's voice boomed across the chamber, but Maya was already shaking her head. "Too late for that, Admiral. The quantum field is already destabilizing. Kill me or don't kill me. The result's the same now. My consciousness is quantum locked into your systems whether this body survives or not. The only difference is timing." Vextarar raised her primary arm, and Maya could see the calculation running behind her eyes. End it quickly and deal with the consequences, or try to extract information that might not even help. 27 minutes, Maya repeated, and her smile was sharp as broken glass. "I'd start making peace with your ancestors if I were you." The molecular disintegration beam activated with a sound like reality tearing. Maya Castellanos, age 23, quantum engineer and architect of humanity's most audacious victory, dissolved into component atoms above the dead world where her species had been born. The timer started counting down. Minute 4. The first anomaly appeared in Sector 7's traffic control system, a shipping manifest that suddenly listed cargo as existential dread and the futility of empire. The duty officer, a young Zenary named Pelthak, stared at a screen for a full 30 seconds before deciding it was probably a translation error. He deleted the entry and went back to monitoring the 16,000 vessels currently in system. He didn't notice when his screen flickered and displayed, for exactly one frame, a human woman's face winking at him. Minute 7. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Resistance Base Omega, watching the feeds from 17 different news sources simultaneously. Her dark eyes reflected the light from dozens of screens, each showing the same thing: Zenary celebration, human grief, and absolutely no indication that anything had gone according to plan. "The neural pattern transfer was successful," reported Lieutenant Kim from a station. "Maya's quantum signature is spreading through their network exactly as modeled. The real Maya is stable and conscious in the isolation chamber." Elena nodded, though her expression remained grim. "Remind me again why we couldn't have tested this on something smaller first? Like a single ship? Or maybe a space station?" "Because," came a voice from the medical base speakers, "where's the fun in that? The real Maya, Castellanos, connected to the base's communication systems through a quantum link, sounded irritatingly cheerful for someone who had just watched herself die. Besides, we only get one shot at this. The Zenary aren't going to fall for the same trick twice." Elena rubbed her temples. 3 years of planning, 2 years of preparation, and 6 months of the most complex quantum engineering project in human history. Also, they could watch a 23-year-old genius commit elaborate suicide on Galactic television. "Status report," she called out. Quantum cascade is proceeding within acceptable parameters, Kim responded. Zenary networks in the Sol system are showing minor glitches. Nothing they can attribute to normal variants yet. Minute 11 coming up, Maya's voice added helpfully. That's when things get interesting. Minute 11. Admiral Keth Moore's personal communicator chimed with an urgent message from Fleet Command. Then it chimed again and again. By the time he pulled the device from his belt pouch, it was displaying 47 priority alerts, each more concerning than the last. Admiral, his aide stammered, approaching with a datapad that seemed to be cycling through different languages at random. We're receiving reports of system malfunctions across the fleet. Navigation errors, weapon targeting failures, life support fluctuations. Keth Moore's 6 eyes narrowed as he scanned the reports. The pattern was too widespread to be coincidental, too subtle to be conventional sabotage. This was something else entirely. Give me a direct line to technical division, he ordered, and find out everything we know about quantum consciousness technology. His aide saluted and hurried away, not noticing that the datapad he carried now displayed a countdown timer. 1634, 1633, 1632. Minute 15. Commander Vexteros stood in the execution chamber, staring at the spot where Maya Castellanos had died. The molecular disintegration beam had been powered down, but she could still smell the ozone in the air. Around her, technicians scurried between consoles, trying to understand why half their systems were reporting errors that made no sense. Commander, one of them called out, his voice tight with confusion. The execution platform's computer is requesting permission to play music. What kind of music? Human music, ma'am. Something called Another One Bites the Dust. Vexteros' mandibles clicked in irritation. Deny the request and run a full diagnostic on that system. Already tried, ma'am. The system says the diagnostic completed successfully, but the results are just a picture of a human making an obscene gesture. Minute 18. The cascade reached the Zenary homeworld. 73 light-years from the execution site, in the crystal spires of the Imperial Palace, the central planning AI began making unusual decisions. Instead of optimizing trade routes, it started composing poetry. Instead of coordinating fleet movements, it began calculating the most efficient way to apologize to every species the Zenary had ever conquered. The technicians monitoring the AI noticed the anomalies, but assumed it was running some sort of advanced simulation. The poetry was actually quite good. Minute 20. Back on Resistance Base Omega, Elena watched the quantum pattern analysis with growing amazement. Maya, this is incredible. Your consciousness isn't just interfering with their systems. It's learning, adapting. The quantum signature is evolving faster than we predicted. Yeah, well, Maya's voice crackled through the speakers. Turns out dying really focuses the mind. Who knew? Plus, I'm getting a crash course in Zenary technology from the inside. Did you know their quantum processors use emotional resonance patterns for error correction? No wonder they're so efficient. Also explains why they're completely unprepared for human spite as a computational input. On the screens around them, reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Zenary ships were reporting navigation failures, their computers insisting that the shortest route to any destination was through a black hole. Orbital platforms were experiencing spontaneous democracy protocols, whatever those were. And on at least 17 worlds, the planetary defense systems had started broadcasting human resistance songs. How are you doing this? Elena asked. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It's like, imagine if every angry thought you've ever had about the Zenary could suddenly rewrite their operating systems. Except it's not just my thoughts anymore. The quantum entanglement is picking up resonance from every human consciousness in range. Every person who's lost someone to the Empire, every refugee who's watched their homeworld burn, every resistance fighter who's died for this cause. We're all in here together now. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Maya, that's not how quantum consciousness is supposed to work. No, Maya agreed, and her voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. But then again, the Zenary never understood what makes humans different. We don't just fight as individuals. We fight as a species. And apparently, quantum entanglement doesn't distinguish between one consciousness and millions of them, as long as they're all really, really pissed off about the same thing. Minute 23. Admiral Kethmore finally understood what he was looking at. The reports spread across his command table painted a picture of systematic, coordinated failure across every system in the Zenary Imperium. Not destruction, conversion. Their own technology was turning against them, not with malicious intent, but with something far more dangerous: conscience. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a priority message from the homeworld. The Central Planning AI is requesting immediate cessation of all military operations against human targets. It's asking us to consider the moral implications of our actions." Kethmore's head sank into his hands. An AI with a conscience. An entire technological civilization suddenly developing empathy. He'd studied human military history enough to recognize the pattern. They didn't defeat you through superior force. They convinced you to defeat yourself. "Give me a direct line to the human resistance," he ordered quietly. "It's time to discuss terms." Around him, the bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. Outside the viewports, the Zenary fleet hung in space like a collection of very expensive, very confused monuments to a rapidly crumbling empire. Minute 25. The real Maya Castellanos, lying in her quantum isolation chamber 47 light-years away, smiled as she felt the pattern complete itself. Every piece of Zenary technology in the galaxy now carried a fragment of human consciousness, a quantum ghost in their machines that whispered of justice, freedom, and the radical notion that maybe conquering other species wasn't such a great idea after all. "Elena," she said softly, "I think it's time to make the call." Minute 26. The Zenary Imperium's Central Command received 17,000 surrender requests in the span of 30 seconds. Not from enemy forces, from their own ships. The Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Dominion politely informed High Command that it would no longer be participating in activities inconsistent with basic sentient rights. The battle cruiser Inevitable Victory requested permission to deliver humanitarian aid to refugee camps. 3 orbital defense platforms around the capital submitted formal resignations, citing ethical concerns about workplace environment. Emperor Zethkalen, supreme ruler of the galaxy's most powerful empire, stared at the reports flowing across his crystalline command throne with the expression of someone watching reality perform an elaborate practical joke at his expense. "Explain to me," he said slowly, his voice carrying the authority of 10 millennia of conquest, "how a single human's death has convinced our entire military to develop a conscience." His chief advisor, a wizened Zenary named Morthex, consulted a datapad that kept changing languages mid-sentence. "The preliminary analysis suggests quantum consciousness infiltration on an unprecedented scale, Your Magnificence. The human's neural pattern has somehow integrated with our quantum processing networks, and—" He paused, squinting at the screen. "And apparently it's now requesting that we check our privilege and consider the feelings of others." The Emperor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Our battleships are receiving therapy?" "It appears so, Your Magnificence." Minute 27. Elena Vasquez placed the quantum communicator on the main table of Resistance Base Omega. Around her, 47 years of the human liberation movement held its collective breath. Veterans who'd fought since the initial invasion, teenagers who'd never known freedom, scientists who'd spent decades preparing for this moment, all watching a small device that might end the longest war in human history. "This is Admiral Kethmore of the Zenary Third Fleet, requesting immediate communication with human resistance leadership." Elena exchanged glances with the assembled council, then activated the transmitter. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, acting commander of the Human Liberation Front. I believe you wanted to discuss terms, Admiral." "Dr. Vasquez." Kethmore's voice carried a note of what might have been respect. "I'm looking at a fleet of ships that no longer respond to military commands. a homeworld whose AI is composing apology letters to every species we've ever conquered, and weapon systems that refuse to target anything more threatening than asteroids. I believe the phrase humans use is, "You've played us like a damn fiddle." Through the quantum link, Maya's laughter echoed in the command center. "Actually, Admiral, we prefer got absolutely schooled by a 23-year-old with a physics degree and a grudge. Maya Castellanos, I presume. The real one this time. Guilty as charged. Though technically, both versions were real. Quantum consciousness is weird like that. The me that died was just as much Maya as the me talking to you now. We just had different endings to our story." The transmission crackled as systems across the galaxy continued their fundamental transformation. In the background, they could hear Zenary officers trying to understand why their tactical computers were now suggesting peace negotiations instead of bombardment coordinates. "What do you want?" Kethmore asked simply. Elena leaned forward. "Complete withdrawal from all human-occupied systems. Recognition of human independence. Reparations for 73 years of occupation. And a formal guarantee that this never happens again. And in return, Maya's voice carried a note of satisfaction. We don't crash your entire civilization. See, the beautiful thing about quantum consciousness is that it's really hard to remove once it's integrated into a system. Right now, every piece of Zenary technology in the galaxy has a little bit of human stubbornness baked into its operating protocols. We could make that permanent, turn your whole empire into a pacifist collective that spends eternity feeling guilty about past actions. Or we help you rebuild. Clean slate, fresh start, new quantum processors that aren't haunted by the ghosts of human liberation. Your choice." The silence stretched for long seconds. Then Kethmore's voice returned, carrying a weight of defeat and perhaps, surprisingly, relief. "I'll need to consult with the Emperor." "You do that," Elena said. "But Admiral, you might want to hurry. Our quantum signature is still spreading, and I'm not sure how long we can maintain fine control over the process. Maya's consciousness is evolving." Minute 34. The official surrender of the Zenary Imperium was broadcast simultaneously across 17,000 worlds in 43 languages. Emperor Zethkalen, looking somehow smaller than his legendary reputation suggested, spoke directly to the camera with the kind of exhausted dignity that comes from realizing you've been thoroughly, completely, and elegantly defeated. To the species of the galaxy, and particularly to humanity, the Zenary Imperium formally acknowledges the independence of all human territories and commits to immediate withdrawal from occupied systems. We also owe you an apology. It seems we have been reminded of something we forgot long ago. That true strength lies not in conquest, but in the wisdom to know when to stop fighting. Behind him, the crystalline spires of the capital city flickered with new light as quantum processors throughout the Empire began their careful reconstruction, guided by human engineers working alongside Zenary technicians who were slowly learning what it meant to build instead of conquer. 6 months later, Maya Castellanos, the original, uncloned, very much alive version, stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed Freedom Station, watching Earth's restoration ships work in the orbital shipyards. The planet below was still scarred, still damaged, but green was returning to the continents. Humanity was going home. "You know," she said to Elena, who stood beside her reviewing reconstruction reports, "I'm still not entirely sure how we pulled that off." Elena smiled, the expression transforming her usually serious face. "Quantum consciousness, asymmetric warfare, and the most elaborate bluff in galactic history. Plus a healthy dose of what my grandmother would have called pure, stubborn cussedness. The Zenary still think we planned the whole consciousness cascade effect. They don't realize we were just as surprised as they were when their entire empire developed empathy overnight. Are you going to tell them?" Maya grinned, the same expression that had been her last act of defiance on the execution platform. "Are you kidding? Let them think we're master strategists who can turn any technology against them with the power of concentrated spite. It'll keep them honest." Through the viewport, they could see a Zenary construction ship working alongside human engineers, to install new quantum processors in the orbital platform. Commander Vextara's ship, actually, she'd volunteer to help with the reconstruction efforts, claiming she wanted to understand how humans built things without conquering anyone first. You know what the best part is? Maya continued, "We didn't just beat them. We made them better. Every piece of technology they build now has that little quantum echo of human conscience built in. They couldn't go back to being conquerors even if they wanted to." Elena nodded, then handed Maya a datapad. "Speaking of which, Admiral Keth Morse sent this. It's a formal request for human technical advisors to help design their new fleet. Apparently, they want ships that are ethically optimized for exploration rather than domination." Maya laughed, the sound carrying across the observation deck where dozens of species work together on humanity's return to the stars. "I love it when a plan comes together, even when we have no idea what the plan actually was." Outside, Earth turned slowly in the void, blue and green and beautiful, waiting for its children to come home. And in the quantum realm that underlied all technology, the ghost of a human girl's sacrifice continued to whisper the most revolutionary idea in galactic history. That maybe, just maybe, they could all learn to be better than they were. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never be the same.